Now, you may have noticed that I'm not in person with you this week. I'm actually up in Michigan, a place called Silver Lake. Yes, it's a lake. I don't know if it's silver or not. I'll have to let you know later. I'm here on vacation with my family. And with you this week is Mr. Kent Curry. Now, have any of you ever gone through some pretty difficult stuff? Maybe it was a test you had to take at school, or maybe it was an activity that you were trying to get through, or maybe it was a sporting event that just felt so difficult. Well, that's kind of like Paul that we've been talking about during the last several weeks. Paul encountered some really difficult situations in his life, but he kept doing hard things because he wanted to share about Jesus with people who were sick and hurting from sin. And Paul knew that Jesus was worth the hard times. Now, we are in a brand new unit this week, which means we have a new big picture question. So let's check it out together. Here's our question. What will happen for all Christians in the future? Do any of you think you know the answer to that question? Well, stick around and I'll tell you all about it. Paul's life and ministry were filled with difficult challenges. Thankfully, Paul used his suffering to share the good news about Jesus with others. Paul helped believers grow in their faith and press on to fully know Jesus. This week, we're starting a new unit about standing strong in our faith all the way to the end of our lives. Paul was no stranger to being arrested because of his preaching the gospel. Today, we will learn about how Paul used his arrest to spread the gospel even more. Our story today is in the book of Acts, and it's called Paul Before Rulers. Check out this week's Bible story video.
Paul had narrowly escaped death in Jerusalem. The Jews planned to kill Paul, but the Roman soldiers took him to Caesarea, where he would be safe. However, Paul was still a prisoner. The Roman leaders wanted to figure out why the Jews hated Paul so much. So Paul met with rulers to try to explain what was going on. First, Paul met with Felix, the governor. Felix ordered the Roman guard to watch Paul, but to also give him some freedom by letting Paul's friends come and serve him. A few days later, Felix and his wife came for a meeting with Paul. Paul talked about faith in Jesus. He talked about righteousness and self-control. And he explained that one day, God is going to judge the world. Felix was afraid of what Paul said. He sent Paul away, but he met with him many times for the next 2 years. When a new governor came into power, Felix did not release Paul from prison. The new governor was named Festus. He traveled to Jerusalem to meet with the Jewish leaders. The Jewish leaders asked Festus to bring Paul to Jerusalem. They were still planning to attack Paul and kill him, but Festus wanted Paul to stay in Caesarea. He invited some of the Jewish leaders to go with him to see Paul. Paul stood before Festus. "I haven't done anything wrong," Paul explained again. "I want to see Caesar." Caesar was the emperor of Rome, and as a Roman citizen, Paul had the right to make his case to him. Festus agreed. While Paul was waiting to go to Rome, King Agrippa and Queen Bernice visited Festus and Paul. Paul told the king how he became a believer. He explained that Jesus died to bring salvation to Jews and Gentiles. "You are out of your mind," Festus said. Paul said, "I am speaking the truth. I wish you and everyone who is listening might believe in Jesus." King Agrippa, Festus, and the others with him got up. They agreed that Paul had done nothing wrong. The king was ready to free Paul, but Paul had already asked to go to Rome. God had chosen Paul to take the gospel to Gentiles, kings, and the Israelites. Paul met with people again and again to tell the good news about Jesus. He wanted everyone to believe that Jesus is Lord, because Jesus has the power to save people from sin. Paul was willing to do whatever it took to share the gospel.
Do you remember when Paul was first arrested in Jerusalem? God had told Paul that he wanted him to share the gospel in Rome. And now God was giving Paul the opportunity to use his arrest to travel there. But that also meant Paul had to stay a prisoner even longer. Well, this week's story point tells us that Paul was willing to do hard things to share the gospel. He didn't care about his own comfort or safety as much as he cared about obeying God to preach the gospel to everyone. Part of Paul's courage came from his understanding of the future God had promised believers. And that brings us back to our big picture question and answer. Let's check out our question again and see what the answer is. What will happen for all Christians in the future? One day, all Christians will see Jesus in his glory and live with him forever. God had chosen Paul to take the gospel to Gentiles, kings, and the Israelites. Paul met with people again and again to tell the good news about Jesus, and he wanted everyone to believe that Jesus is Lord. Because Jesus has the power to save people from sin, Paul was willing to do whatever it took to share the gospel. Friends, as you go out this week, let's think how we can do whatever it takes to share the gospel. I'm so glad you joined us this week. We'll see you back here next time. Have a great week, everybody. See you soon.